Good morning around the Diamond family. Welcome back for another episode. We are live. It is a beautiful Saturday. We are excited for some great baseball as we come to the final quarter of the season, so to speak. So let's not waste any time. As always, Baseball Bill, how are you doing on this fine Saturday morning?
Higher. Good. We've been to two baseball games in 2 days.
Oh
And
man.
oh my gosh. And today we're going to go to a third game. And we're not talking about just the same stadium that's right around the corner. One at Dodger Stadium, one at Angel Stadium, now one down in San Diego with family. So I'm tired, but I'm excited. I'm excited. We've been having so much fun.
It's always great when you get to go travel, get to see some great baseball, get to see some beautiful baseball parks. You've got a couple of beautiful parks you're going to be seeing in the next 2 to 3 weeks,
Oh,
if
yeah.
conversation returns correctly on my end, and we will get into a little bit more about that shortly. But let's not waste any time. Let's jump right into the MLB standings. Bill, take
All right.
me to
Here
the
we
NL. What is going
at the AL, right? Okay, so here we go. So Baltimore is still doing Baltimore things, man. They are crazy good right now. And they're playing well. The Rays are nipping at their heels. Um, you got Blue Jays obviously still playing well. Red Sox are 5-5 in their last 10, but they need to step that up. Yankees, even though they still got a shot for the wild card, it's gonna be unique. Twins finally have a winning record. Guardians, Tigers, White Sox, Royals try again next season. Uh, White Sox in particular, that just shocks me. Rangers and Astros, there's
on?
where your race is at. And don't forget about the Mariners in the wild card. Angels, we're going to talk about them today. And the A's, first to 80, just the wrong number, on the wrong side.
Yeah.
But first to 80, baby. Woo! First to 80. And Sammy, your thoughts on any of the AL?
Yeah, I love seeing what the Orioles are doing. I really, really love the fact that they are as good as I believed they were going to be at the beginning of the season. They are just proving it to me. They have not let anything stop them. They are just showing why youth is needs to come up. Um, Central, I mean, I have nothing to say about this this division is going to be one. I think now that we're getting closer to the end, I'm going to say the total number of wins the leader of this division is going to have 83. 83 wins is going to get whatever team into the playoffs as the division leader for that division. And the West just got completely turned around with this last trade deadline. We're going to talk about it a little bit,
Oh,
but
yeah.
watch the Astros and Rangers because it is about to get crazy interesting in that
So,
event, in those
so
against those two teams.
side note, the Orioles are this good. They are 10 games away from missing the playoffs. 10 games over the closest team in the wild card. So 10 games. So just so that you know, they played 110 games. They're up 10 games. So they're going to get in. And who is the wild card team chasing the other three right now? It's the Seattle Mariners, 2.5 games out. That's amazing. That wasn't that way a
I
couple of weeks ago.
No, not at all. And that wild card battle is primarily between the AL East and the Mariners.
Yep.
That's basically where it sits. So, as Bill said, keep an eye on this. AL West watch, the AL wild card watch is going to be the AL went from being quite interesting, or not really as interesting, in my opinion, to something very interesting to watch in a matter of 2 weeks. That's just my opinion, but it was always interesting to watch. Bill's giving me this look like, "What are you talking about? This AL was always something to watch." I think
No,
the
not giving
AL
you that look.
West.
I just got a weird message. So I'm like looking at, I'm trying to process something as I'm looking.
Oh, okay,
Anyways,
fair enough, fair enough. Well, let's go. I'll talk about this NL standings real quick. Instead of starting with the East, because we always start there, I'm going to take it and start it on the West Coast this time. Dodgers are still leading in the NL West with 63 and 45, but they are only 3 games ahead of the Giants, 61 and 49. The Dodgers just came off of a easy sweep against the A's. So, I think we all knew that that was going to happen. But it is competitive in that division. The Diamondbacks have been slipping hard. Got lost 3 out of the last. So they have slipped back. I think last time I looked, they are now 3.5 games out of first for the wild card, but they are still in that wild card battle strong. Moving over to the Central, Brewers and Reds. This is going to be a battle to the finish. We've been saying it for the last couple of weeks. The Reds are hot, 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 and you don't want to they are not taking their foot off the gas. But the Brewers are doing what Brewers do in the postseason, or as we get closer to the postseason, and that's turning on to another level. Keep an eye on that, but watch out for those Cubs too. I can't fault them because they went on a 9-1 streak right after the All-Star game. Had a couple of hiccups recently, but they are still killing it. And moving over to the East, the Braves, I think, are the Dodgers of last year. They are running away with the National League East. It is not even a close call. In the National League East, it is primarily Phillies are playing much better than they've been playing in the last couple of weeks. And, we will get into the Mets as we move later into the show. But, Bill, anything on the NL side?
no, pay attention. So the wild card race, Giants, Phillies, Cincinnati right now, but Miami's only a half game out. Arizona's a game and a half. Chicago's only 2 games out. So pay attention to how that rolls. And it's going to be that wild card race is going to be wild, wild until the end. So pay attention to that for sure.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. So, anything crazy on these stats, Bill? There's nothing really.
No, Stash finally got his 12th win. We
I was
finally
gonna.
have guys that have their 12th win. But so just fun fact, who did Spencer Strider strike out for his 200th strikeout? Do you know?
I don't.
Shohei Ohtani. He struck out Shohei Ohtani for number 200. So
Well,
it's
I guess you.
yeah,
I guess when you're, the home run king, you're gonna strike out every now and
yeah,
then.
exactly. Exactly. But it's
uh,
nice to see a couple of people move into 12 wins. We're still not going to get a 20-game winner this season.
no, we won't. But again, I think this season has given a lot of insight to MLB into some rule modifications that they're going to have to make this offseason on to the rules that they implemented around the pitching and the time clock. There have been way too many injuries. We'll do a whole season recap as to how these rule changes affected everyone once the season comes to an end. So you're definitely not going to want to miss that episode when we do it, because that'll be after the postseason, after the World Series. But definitely, these rule changes affected these pitchers more than I think they thought they'd be affected. And I think MLB realized it with the number of pitchers that got injured this year, so they have to find a balance. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And that's the only thing I'm going to say about it, because when we get to the injury report, you'll see more about what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
So stolen bases.
People are keep moving.
I mean, Acuna finally hit 50.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
He
exciting.
he's got an outside shot to be a 40-60 guy. So he'll get to the 60. Whether or not he gets to the 40 home runs is another
Yeah.
question. Yeah. So that one's interesting.
Personally, I think we could actually see Acuna as a 40-70 guy. That's going to be my Hail Mary. I think Acuna will be 40-70.
Okay. Okay. I'll take it. I'll take it.
I mean,
I
we've
will
got
take
what
it.
we've still got what another 60 games left in the season, approximately, to get 19 stolen bases and 60 odd games. I think for Acuna, you can't put anything past this guy.
Exactly. Exactly. You can't put anything past him. Is
However,
that good?
well, yes, but while stolen bases really weren't that exciting, home runs still are.
Very much so.
Bill,
Although I will say, first and second, 1 out last night. Angels are down by 2 runs, and Shohei strikes out on a very high fastball. A pitch that wasn't even a strike. I mean, he was trying to do too much. But, it is what it is. Sometimes you do that.
he swung at it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's interesting because while there have been a number of, I think there's a lot of things we could talk about that impacted a lot of things this season. We always talk about the umpires being a major factor into it, and I think that's a factor. We didn't really take a lot of input into this season with the amount we went in on rule changes. So it's interesting to think about stuff like that. And it's almost like MLB tried to divert away from us paying attention to the umpires. What do you think about that, Bill?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, these guys are still going to hit. I mean, they're still going to hit, but they are trying to do too much. The umpires, yeah. It's still the 5-run home run is still sexier than a walk, right? Even though the walk does the job.
That's true. That's true. That's true. This is what I was talking about with pitchers. Where every week we put more and more pitchers on the injury report list. And here is the next realm of injury reports for pitchers out for the last 2 months of the season. Bill, any of these really more impactful? Any of these more impactful than another?
No, it's sad to see Liam Hendricks on there. The guy battled cancer and came back from cancer, came back mid-season this season after a ton of chemotherapy in the off season and last season. It's just hard to see that he gets an elbow injury. That's rough.
Yeah.
But the
I hear you.
Pirates, the Royals, they're going nowhere. White Sox, and they're going nowhere as well.
I think Jose De Leon right now is probably the only one that would be impactful on this list, just with the Twins in first place in the AL
Yes.
Central. Other than that, though, none of these guys are really going to make any bigger of an impact for their team. I think their teams and their places have almost been determined. They're not in contention, so it is what it is. But we'll see you all next year. You'll all be fully healthy. You'll have 7.5 to 8 months to get yourself prepared for next year. So you better not get injured.
Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
Let's get into some fun stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Now let's get into our topics.
Yes. So trade deadline ended on, I don't even know when it ended this year. I think it was August 1st at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right? That's when it ended. I thought it ended on July 31st, and all of a sudden I kept seeing trades come in. I'm like, I guess I was a day off.
Yeah, I thought it ended on July 31st too, and I called that on my In the League's morning show, and somebody said,
Yeah.
no, it ends tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern. I'm like, whoa, I'm sorry. I did just chill.
Yeah, right?
My bad.
But looking at this trade deadline, in your opinion, now, according to ESPN.com, the biggest winners were Houston and Texas, and the biggest losers were. It's funny because the biggest losers were the two teams from New York, and the biggest winners were two teams from Texas.
That's true. I guess it's Texas against New York.
Do
I mean,
you think this is
that's a
pretty
great way to put
accurate?
it. I hadn't thought of that before. Yeah, Kate Upton
Would you
returns
say
to the
that this is?
Astros.
I don't
The
think Justin
Yankees,
Verlander sold his house.
yeah, the Yankees just did nothing. Like they said, hey, we've got what we need. We just did nothing. Now, here's somewhat of a reality, right, on all this, Sam, and tell me I'm wrong, but there's going to be 30 teams chasing after Shohei Ohtani.
Mm-hmm.
So, of the 30 teams that are chasing after Shohei Ohtani, I'm sure the Yankees think they're going to get him. So, they're not spending a lot of money right now, but they literally did nothing, nothing, and they made themselves
And
worse.
yeah, and I think in Shohei's mind, Shohei is a very intelligent person. He's very intelligent. He's not only above and beyond a gifted athlete, just smart in seeing what's happening. And he's looking at every team to see what they're doing this year to grow for the future. And I think him looking at what the Yankees didn't do is going to impact his decision very heavily, because the Yankees can't just come in there and say, give me an amount and we'll write you the check. He's going to go to them and say, well, what have you done to get your team better? Because I'm here to win. And I'm seeing other teams bringing up youth, making trades, being aggressive. So I think being the foot, and we'll get more into Shohei and the Angels in just a couple of minutes. But, there was a really interesting article I saw regarding the two winners on the left-hand side,
Right.
specifically. I'm not sure if you saw this article.
Which one?
But apparently Scherzer came out and said that the Mets organization, when they originally signed him, said, we're here to compete, we're here to fight, we're here to win, we're here to fight, we're here to win. And then all of a sudden, as it got closer and closer to this year's trade deadline, they're like, we don't expect to win until 2026.
Yeah,
We're in our rebuild phase. So Verlander and Scherzer did, in my opinion, did themselves a service waiving their no trade clause and getting out of New York.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah. I if I'm Max Scherzer, I'm beyond frustrated, because during the years that I could have got my last big contract, I was going to go to the biggest stage in the world, which was New York City, and I was going to compete in New York. And it's ridiculous. When you sign somebody and you tell them, hey, we're going to compete, everybody and their grandmother thought that the New York Mets, the San Diego Padres were going to be in the National League Championship Series at the beginning of the season. Padres are probably going to miss the playoffs. The Mets, when I read that article, I was so frustrated by that. You have no idea how frustrated I was with that. Now, Justin, if I can, I mean not Justin, it's Scherzer. If I can remember correctly, I think he exercises player option for next season. So the Met, and I think he did that as kind of a like stick it in your back Mets, because the Mets still have to pay
Yep.
him the rest of his contract minus the league minimum, which is $750,000 divided by whatever 5 months of the season, right?
Right. And
But
that gets
then,
paid, and now that gets paid by the Rangers.
yeah, the league minimum gets paid by the Rangers. The
Right.
rest of the contract gets paid by the Mets, and the majority of his league or his player option gets paid by the Mets. So the Mets are going to pay Max Scherzer over $30 million
Yep.
to play someplace else. So if I'm Max, I'm doing the
Yep.
same thing that the to the Mets. I'm going to stick it to him as I'm going out the door, and literally every time I get to go to Queens, I'm going to just pitch my heart out, and I'm throwing at anybody that I possibly can. The Mets talked about, this is sad, but the Mets actually talked about trading Pete Alonso. So your biggest trade
We've talked
deadline,
about that. We talked about it.
right? But there was an article that came out this week about it. So the Mets have actually literally said that they're taking offers on Pete Alonso. So your franchise player, the person that draws the most people to the stands right now, you're thinking about trading. The worst part about this too is now for the trade deadline next year. All I'm going to hear is Max Scherzer and I'm sorry, not Max Scherzer. Is Juan Soto and freaking Pete Alonso. That's all we're going to hear next season. It's
Yep.
driving me nuts. I'm already getting
And
prepared
it's
for it.
going to be really interesting. Let's
What's up?
keep an eye on this guy back here, right here, Francisco Lindor. Keep an eye on what he does.
Yeah.
Because with everything that's been happening, he went to New York also with the intention of winning a championship with Pete Alonso, with Max Scherzer, with Verlander. And I mean, he was there before Verlander and Scherzer got there. But I would not be surprised if Francisco Lindor went and said, if you guys are just going to be pulling this stuff, trade me because I don't want to be here. And Francisco has got all the bargaining power. I mean, I know Steve Cohen had said in the beginning of the season, oh, we're going to be players on Shohei next year. If I'm Shohei, I'm not going anywhere close to New York. I'm staying 3,000 miles away from New York. You know where I'm staying? On the West Coast. Because New York, in my opinion, at this point, if I'm Shohei, is toxic.
Yeah. Period. Yeah.
Who cares if you're wearing pinstripes if you're not going to be respected by your team? That's my opinion. But there were also a number of losers and a number of teams that should have been sellers. Padres should have been sellers. I mean, Mets obviously were sellers. But buyers, Giants should have been buyers, I think, a little bit more at the trade deadline. I definitely would have liked to see them get a pitcher. I think the Cubs did a really good. They were aggressive in parts where they needed to be, but not too aggressive where they got rid of good players like Bellinger. So I think this was a very reasonably good trade deadline for a lot of teams and a couple of misses for a few.
Yeah. Yep.
But Bill,
Yep.
I know this is a topic you were really excited about. So why don't you take the lead on this bad one?
So this is what we'll call we're betting on red. We're putting it all on red. That's all it is. That's all it is. We're putting it all on red. The Angels decided not to trade. Now, there's a big flaw here. Teams go through winning streaks, they go through losing streaks, they go up and down, right? So the Angels were on a high note at the trade deadline. So they chose not to sell. They chose not to sell anything. They're making their playoff push, right? And they're keeping Shohei. So if that's the case, okay, let's just play this scenario out. The Angels are currently 8.5 back of the Texas Rangers. They're probably not going to win the division. Oh, by the way, they are 5 now back, and they're only 1 game over 500. They're 5 back of the wild card right now. They would have to leapfrog the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Mariners, and the Blue Jays in order to get in. In my opinion, huge mistake. My opinion, huge mistake. But listen, you also don't want to be known as the guy that traded Shohei, but you've got to trade. You got to get something for him unless you're 100% confident that you can re-sign him. And then here is the next question that you have to ask yourself. If you re-sign him, then is it much of the same? I guess it is, because now you still got Trout with a huge contract. Now you got Ohtani with a huge contract. And now you got no pitching. You got nothing else. So you've got 2 of the best players on the planet. And again, no playoff appearances. Are you going to go another 10 years without playoff appearances? My take. That's my thought. What do you think, Sammy?
Yeah, when I saw that they were being buyers instead of sellers, I was very taken aback. However, in my opinion, there was no way they were going to get what they were asking for Shohei at the trade deadline for a rental. Shohei has already made his intention clear. No matter what team he was playing for at the end of this year, he's testing the market. He's seeing what his value's at. He's seeing what other teams are able to offer, who he wants, and where he feels he's going to be the best fit. So there is no guarantee he's going to stay in LA, but there is a possibility. He could stay in LA. The Dodgers are a favorite right now for him, so there is the possibility that he could stay in LA and move to the Dodgers. There's a strong possibility he could still go to San Francisco. But the Angels are asking for 3 top 100 picks, 3 top 100 players from whatever team he was going to be traded to. And no team is going to trade 3 of their top 100 players for a
No.
rental.
Yeah.
Not on the planet. Now, if the Angels were reasonable and said, give us either one top 100 player and one of your top prospects in the farm right now, plus another player to be named later, okay, now you maybe have a shot at trading Shohei and gaining something for your future. Or say, give me 2 top 100s and a player to be considered later or cash. Fine, great. Okay, now you've built your future and you still have the ability to possibly bid on Shohei and you've added value to your team. But they went full boat, give us your top 100 players and something and other things, and you could get them. They played this terribly at the trade deadline. They absolutely should have been selling. Even if they didn't sell Shohei, they should have sold the team. They should have sold more players and gained more youth. That's just my opinion. That would have shown Shohei that you're trying to build a future. Now they did nothing to do that. So it's a shame, but Angels made their own grave. At least they'll play one game in October, right?
Yep. Exactly.
But we always could talk about this more and more, but we will get into more about it next week. But Bill, you have a great podcast schedule coming up for us this week. Why don't you take me through it real quick?
So you and Mikey are going to be talking about the NL West. We've got a new father and son duo that's coming in the clubhouse. That'll be airing Wednesday, and then of course our By the Numbers. Got a couple other ones that are coming up, but a lot of people with the end of summer coming up and school right around the corner, it's been a little harder to lock and load people's schedules. That's why you're hearing, that there's still some time, left over.
Understandable. And then you got some good lives this week.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. Sarah and Dave are going to be on. The Red Sox fans. Jennifer, who is a AAA mascot, so she's a lot of fun. She's going to be on, and she's a Ranger fan. And then we're locking and loading our Mets fan for Friday. We've got 2 of them out there, but we're just trying to figure out whether or not they're going to be able to be on. So yeah.
That is awesome. I can't wait to see those. But as always, there is a phenomenal watch party coming on August 18th. So we are 2 weeks away. It is going to be in Boston at Scores on Canal Street. While the Yankees are in New York the Red Sox are in New York, sorry for that, taking on the New York Yankees. So you got to keep it looking for that. Make sure if you're in Boston, you head over there. And on top of it, make sure you keep out on TopFanRivalry.com for new articles, for more podcasts, for more merch. And make sure you're checking out all of Around the Diamond, not just here, but also on YouTube. We are putting this out on YouTube so our fans can catch it. So it's definitely a good time. Bill, any final thoughts for the fans out there?
No, let's enjoy the weekend and let's enjoy some baseball.
Yeah, we got some good baseball. You especially got some good baseball. So I hope you enjoyed the game you're going to today. I will be enjoying some good baseball from the comfort of my couch. And for all of those top fans in the world, we will see you on the field next week. Thanks for joining us.
Bye-bye.